Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Just give me some more. Have it in. Give me some more. Just give me some more.
Oh, hold on one second, everybody. My other screen is acting completely wonky. So we'll get out of that. So my sincerest apologies. Something is lagging and holding up the entire system on the... I don't even know what it's doing. It's all hold up here. Let's get out. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. My sincerest apologies about that. There was some type of weird lag issue with my computer, but I am happy to see everyone here tonight. So thank you for stopping in. Morgan will be joining us this evening here just in a little bit. But thank you for stopping into my whiskey den, your favorite craft whiskey. Your craft whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. Sorry about that. A whole screwed up beginning kind of threw me off. But tonight we're going to be talking about how to store your whiskey. So some of the things, I know Pat and also me, it was a lovely 30 seconds there that my computer was not catching up to anything and not letting me do anything. So thank you for stopping in, like I said. I want to tell you about a couple upcoming things that if you don't know, next week on Monday night, we're going to be having Matt from Whiskey Crusaders. We might be having Will and Sarah on as well, too. But they're going to be coming on. We're going to be talking about the Whiskey Castle that they have. Obviously, you can see in the background there. It is a fantastic venture that they went into, and it place looks amazing. Mike was there just recently, so we'll be taking a look at some of the pictures and other things that they have going on there and some of the options. It looks like another great stop to add into a Texas whiskey trip. So prepare for that next week. And hold on a second here. I just got to jump around a few different places because I am not used to doing this on my phone. So I think I did it. There we go. Hey, Morgan, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm well. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. My computer has taken a crap in the beginning of the screen, so the first minute and 30 seconds are lovely, so I don't even know what it is.
Whoops.
Hey, that's life, so that's gone now. So tonight, and thank you for stopping in, Morgan. We appreciate you doing that. We are talking about how to store your whiskey. And there is a couple really kind of probably 8 to 10 pretty standard things that most people should know or would want to look into. But first off, I'm going to start with finding a drink because I wasn't expecting that to happen. So are you having anything this evening, or are you just unpacking?
Oh, gosh. We are still in unpack mode. I'm actually, you probably can tell it's a little dark, but I am sitting on the floor in the living room because this is about the only decent space in the house right now to do this. So, yeah. So we're just going to roll with it.
Very, very fair. I agree with that. I'm just going to go with stuff as well, too. So I'm going to have some of our recent guests, Ken Schreiner's, AJ Schreiner's Heritage Rye. I'm going to sip a little bit of that this evening. Now that you finally have your house and abode picked out, that should be arriving to you quite shortly.
awesome. Looking forward to that. So, I know Mitch is too, of course. But yeah, good times.
Mm. Is Nebraska your new favorite place yet?
We actually really like it. Nebraska has been very good to us so far. So we'll take it. I go from Lincoln to Omaha every day, which is about 45 minutes. But I absolutely enjoy my commute. It is so beautiful. And yeah, it's just peaceful. I enjoy it. So we'll see how I feel about it in the winter. But for now, it's beautiful. I cross the Platte River every day, and it is yeah, it's breathtaking.
We're going between the two most exciting places in my mind, so that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, we're excited to go out west in Nebraska at some point once, of course, we get settled and start exploring out there. Looks pretty cool.
Excellent. All
So,
right. Oops, sorry about that. I mean to bring that in front of my camera, but like I was saying, today we are talking about how to store your whiskey and a couple pretty basic things. Like the very first one that I think is in most people's ideas is to keep the one of two things: keep them out of direct sunlight. I was going to say it's kind of a really big thing, and also keeping the bottles in a certain temperature range. Or usually people just think like a cooler, dark place. A lot of times, if you get a little bit nerdier into it, it gets to be about 60 to 70 degrees, 59 to 69 degrees for kind of a temperature. But to be honest, that's what most people's basements are. Kind of rarely does it get below 55 in a lot of people's basements, so you're pretty safe unless you're, I guess, living in Wisconsin at some points, and it can get a little colder, but typically it is standard that way. Okay, I was losing power for a second there too. It's just been awesome. So that's a big thing, and direct sunlight is another thing that actually causes a lot of damage, not only from the sunlight, but mainly because of the heat and other things that can help really deteriorate some of the whiskey in the bottle. It's those two are kind of the main ones, which is why a lot of times you'll see stuff in cabinets at bars, but a lot of times it won't be by the front windows. Or even in liquor stores, kind of rarely do you see a lot of whiskey up by a front window. Most of that's all covered up for the most part, usually by big placards and boards and stuff, or just advertising for certain brands. But that's also helping most of the stuff inside. So a lot of times that sunlight and heat will deteriorate the quality of the bottle inside, which is sad because I myself have a problem with this because my bar is out on my patio, which is all windows around. And so it's almost as if I have to pack up everything I like and bring it inside, which stinks. But if I'm having a pool party, it's awesome. So, but I mean, I'll be straight honest. There have been a few bottles that have fallen prey to, oh, I forgot about that, and it was like 4 days later, and there's a cringe on my face going. And you go back to it, it was fine. But I mean, those are things that can do it. Also, severe cold in that manner. There's a lot of times, especially around here, and you may have to deal with this. Mitch may have to deal with this now,
yeah.
where it's freezing cold. If you have trunk whiskey, it's not the best place to keep it. On your ventures, do you guys take the whiskey out at night?
It just kind of depends on how much. Leave it up to Mitch. He's driving a 22-foot box truck with, everything still from the house in Kentucky and, of course, the dog. And he stops at Spirits of French Lick and Woodat last Monday, and we're now 24 bottles more into our collection. So leave it up
All
to
that space he wedged out before the move is gone.
pretty much, right? I mean, leave it up to Mitch to come up with 24 more bottles. He's driving, a massive truck halfway across the country. So, but no, to answer your question, it just depends. Mitch is really good about it. If he knows it's really hot out, then usually we just, we'll bring it in. Uh, if it's cold, bring it in. But usually we try to, mostly because we enjoy it in the hotel room. So whenever we travel,
That's a good answer. Yeah, that's a good part of it too. But yeah, I just know that cold can be an issue as well too, especially here. But like I honestly have to also fall and pray to coming back from going someplace and having a couple of bottles and just coming inside and leaving them in my car. So things happen. Don't hurt yourself too much. If you were to do something like that, just know it wasn't the greatest move and move on and make a correction for it in a couple of those instances. So a couple other things. I was going to say another one is actually, it sounds weird, but kind of keeping the same humidity. It matters. I was going to say is you don't want it like too damp in an area. That also goes along the line if there's something that has like strong smells, because a lot of time dampness can go along with a strong musty odor, if you would, or a lot of humidity. But any type of very strong odor, you don't want it like right next to your wife's essential oils. That would not be the greatest place to store it. A lot of times, you may pick up something if it were that strong to come through in some manner, or at least on the nose. That would be something to try to avoid as well too. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get the camera as I'm going, but I feel like my chair is sliding to the left at the same time. So if you see this whole thing just going like this, that's what's happening.
It's been one of those days. At least it has for me. I don't know about for you, but
yeah, I have a couple people on vacation at work, and it's been fun, and it'll be good by the time the week ends on Saturday. I'll be ecstatic at that point, and next Monday's show will be great. I'll be prepared for that, and maybe I'll just be a little late on Tuesday.
Whoops.
Whoops. So, yeah. The others. I don't know, a couple other things that a lot of people some people will get a little about label condition, protecting the bottle that way. That's great, but I'm not usually storing something with the purpose of reselling unless it has some type of nostalgic purpose for me, or it might be signed by somebody. To be honest, the cover label and stuff is over time does not really bother me too much. Those would be the couple instances where it would make a little bit of, it might bug me if that were to happen. But for most of the time, no, that's not really an issue for me or something I would care about. So I don't know. That's one that I don't know. Like I said, it's got to be special for me to really care. Like, I think James has got one of the Leopold Brothers 3-chamber rye originals that I got, and he's still holding on to it. That's one I would, yes, I would love to have that one be in just lovely order for forever. But that's just because of personal, nostalgic, historic purposes and stuff, and me being greedy that way. But for the most part, no, that's not something I would tend to care about. With all the things that Mitch does there, has he ever, do you know if I doubt it, because not that I know if I probably has tried it, but some people will put gas into a bottle at the top. I was going to say after they've opened it up, they kind of
Yeah.
bridge the gap, and then they'll put it back on. I haven't done it. I have known people who have. They say it seems to work, but I have never done it myself. I've never gotten that excited.
I've never even heard of that before. So
Yeah, just a little bit in the top, and then they'll put the cork back on. It keeps it from oxidizing on the inside. Something paraffin tape or paraffin wax that I have and several people have used, and actually works very well for kind of nice, making that nice tight little seal around the top of the cork, especially if you're not going to be using it for a while. That's a great way to kind of seal up the top. And as far as, let's talk about if it's sealed up, you're going to want the cork itself to stay wet. So every so often you're going to want to sounds lame, and my God, I don't even know how you guys would do it. You're going to want to tip the bottle over just to wet up the top of the cork. Now, if it's a synthetic cork, that means absolutely nothing. You do not have to do that because you have a synthetic cork, which is awesome. The other thing with that is some people will store the bottles on their side, which is not something I would typically tell you to do. That is something you would cause a lot of uproar with some people, and I would tend to have to agree. Keep them upright. It's not wine. Even if you have the extra space, somehow your wife didn't fill up the wine rack and you feel like you can fill in those slots and she might not notice, not the greatest idea. Plus, you'll get caught too. I mean, you're going to get caught with that. Some people will tell you that the way you open it can have a little bit of effect on the storage. Basically, taking care of the cork, besides wetting it and kind of keeping it in after time, not just ripping the whole top off of it. I've heard this argument, but I don't know if I have a whole lot of faith in how. Maybe it's just the abuse of the cork and the cork taking damage. But the thud sometimes is the most exciting part. I mean, that can be one of the best parts in trying to kind of hit that note with it. So I guess from cork damage possibly, but I don't know, that one I could care a little bit less about that. Now, as far as getting into how much, hold on 1 second. I was supposed to have some at arm's length, but I also don't have, hold on to stuff. So, on a bottle, I know that this is a miniature bottle, but let's pretend it is big. When you're dealing with oxidization in the top, which means just kind of the air roaming around in the top, mixing with your whiskey, most of the time when you get down to about half or even a third of the bottle, you're fairly safe for giving it a little bit more time without horrible worry. Once you break that bottom quarter is when you're going to want to start to plan to share, or maybe not hold on to it forever. Once again, I am a poor model of this because I have 2 or 3 bottles downstairs that have these tiny little bit left just because. But really, that's the point when you get below a quarter that things can start to happen a little bit more quickly. Plus, whiskey's meant to be shared. So once you get to this point, share it before it starts to change or go down a different path. Yes. Oh, that's no fun.
Oh.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the things that can happen. So you want to wet the cork up. You don't want the alcohol to eat it away. There's that lovely fine line between that. But the wetting is just mainly to help it absorb it, kind of recreate that seal a little bit better, have it press out. Just basic sponge technique, if you would. If people are having a hard time figuring that out, add some water to a sponge. It expands, seals it up a little bit better. So those are kind of, for me, those are a lot of the big things if you're going through storing whiskey to kind of pay attention to. The preserving spray, like I mentioned, is neat. And for people, how about this? For people who have a large collection, and maybe some higher expense bottles in the collection, I think it might be something that worth investing in. Because like I was saying, once you get kind of put past half down to that third, adding something like that should help elongate that before you have issues. So in that manner, it could be useful. I wouldn't plan on using it too much for me. I try to go through them a little bit quicker than that. So, let's see here. Now, it would be very hard. Do you guys use decanters or anything very much, or is it straight out of the bottle?
So that's actually really funny you say that. Mitch is not a decanter person, or so I thought. But once again, leave it up to Mitch. Here our whole life is in boxes currently in the house, and Saturday, it was either Saturday or Sunday, he's asked if I wanted to go and get some whiskey decanters. I'm like, what are you talking about? These are whiskey decanters from the 1970s and earlier that actually have not been opened and still have original whiskeys in them. So they're really cool. I'm sure we'll probably, share pictures and stuff once we get to that point. But yeah, really, really cool. Excited for that. But yeah, normally no. We actually had a whiskey decanter in the basement at the house in Kentucky that we dumped before we moved because it was all gross and clouded that it had seen better days. So.
Well, usually when they're in there, that's another one of those things. Like, I feel like if you put in a decanter, you're kind of putting a clock on it. Like, yeah, you should be planning to be. For me, it's almost like a party trick. Like that's. If you were having like I don't know, my parents were older, so like that 70s cocktail party, 60s, 70s cocktail party thing. That's where I'd always kind of see the decanter have a little something in it. And that's not like my own personal memory, but like historically of that time period, I see this over there on the bar cart, with some of the other mixtures and stuff that could be happening. So I don't use them very often. I don't get to have enough big parties or anything like that. And my thing is I'm probably not going to go through a bottle of something within a month. Which I think if it's in a decanter is probably more than enough time, if not like a couple weeks. And for me now, that's a lot to go through in that time frame, along with tasting other things. I'm not prepared to be that invested at the moment. Someone really, really have to catch me to get me to go that way.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but before Mitch pours any of the bottles from the collection, he actually turns it upside down to wet the cork first before, slowly taking it out. He's not one of the, champagne whiskey bottle people, that likes the pop noise as good as it is to hear that some days. But yeah, every bottle he'll turn upside down. He even does it with the synthetic ones, I think probably just out of habit, but just kind of help seal that as we're going through bottles and all that kind of good stuff. So, I definitely agree with everything. It's kind of common sense, right? You want to keep it more temperature controlled. You want to keep it out of sunlight. Before it was in the basement, which was completely underground in Kentucky. other than like the little foot windows or whatever
Yeah.
you call those, daylight windows or whatever.
The emergency exit windows that you can't crawl through. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's going to be a little bit different. Our whiskey room in this house here in Nebraska has not one but two bay windows. And the one actually has a like seating area in it from where it bows out. So curtains are going to be our friend. um, and we will see how that works, just to make sure everything stays in tip-top shape.
Oh, you got to use the space you have too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the way the world works.
Yeah, it was, our realtor thought we were joking when we would look at a house and say that the basement or wherever, wasn't big enough for the collection. So
Did they come over to see it being unloaded at some point?
No, but I sent him the picture, that I sent you earlier, of everything in the boxes and whatnot all stacked up in the room, so, uh, it's oh my goodness, yeah, our realtor did not believe us when we said we had to partially look for a house in order to hold our whole entire alcohol collection, so
That's probably a different thing for him. That's got to be a neat way to look at a house for someone else too, because usually everyone looks at it kind of a very, I don't want to say plain chain, but very similar way. But to hear someone going, okay, well, this is no, we need 20 more feet in the basement. We need space.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we looked at a lot of really awesome houses, but it was just like, "Oh, the split level house isn't gonna quite work," 'cause, so we lucked out with this one. It's actually a quad level, so the whiskey room is,
Oh,
kind of its own, like, entity and part of how the house is. So, but yeah, it's gonna be great once we get it all set up with, the bar and everything. So, um and then the movers we hired to unload all the trucks and pods and everything, they had no idea what to do with that much alcohol. They had never seen it before, let alone going into somebody's house. And they were also dumbfounded of how to move a bourbon barrel, because
really?
yeah, they couldn't quite figure it out. So,
I'd have thought that would be something that becoming a little more common in a lot of places or homes. There's, like a tire that kind of fits a few different decors. So
yeah, well, we had 3 total that came out of the pods and truck, the 2 for the bar and then the other one, which, of course, Mitch made all of them between him and his dad, with being the Coopers. So, but yeah, they had to teach him how to walk and roll a barrel and make it a little easier on him. So,
sorry. Yeah, I could see that being a problem. Now that you mention it, like, no, it's like this. See, it's not so bad if you do this.
literally, that's how
Instead
it
of trying
was.
to just manhandle it and be like, today was the worst day ever.
I would be lying if I said that was the second day when they unloaded the third one, when I taught them about the walking a barrel and, like, rolling it and whatnot. Because the first day, the 2, they had already had them on movers dollies and were mobile with them, so it was too late. So I just kinda stood back and watched them and got a good chuckle out of it. So
You gotta take those where you can get them. So,
yeah, exactly. So,
all right.
oh, man.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't have too much more to add to the conversation at this moment as far as putting into storing whiskey. Now you can get more in depth, and there are nerdier things you can get into with it. But really, if you're into whiskey, light, medium, I think we went over the things that that 95% of the people are gonna need to know. The other more niche things, you might be looking to hold on to things because you're looking to resell them. In which case some things become a little bit more exciting or more important to you, i.e., label condition. Um, you might want, and I've seen this with a couple people because of what they had in it. It was actually in a humidor that was controlled temperature and humidity wise. I thought that was a
Wow.
tad much, but then uh, some people have a lot of money and they want to spend it where they want to, and that person did have some very expensive bottles that were in that section of his collection. Like, it wasn't for everything, but there was, like a shelf you'd see at a store that goes up and down, and that shelf of stuff from top to bottom was all in there. And I, like Redbreast 27s, some other things of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
Just expensively fun stuff. But like, to that point, yeah, it made sense. So that's kind of neat. But for the vast majority of people, that's not really in your wheelhouse of of accomplishing that. So I don't even dabble in it, but there are some neat other things you can get into on the higher end. But like I said, for most people enjoying whiskey out there, keeping it out of the sun, keeping it mostly temperature controlled. Don't hate yourself if you screw up and you leave it in your car, hot or cold. You've already done it. Just go fix the problem.
Yep.
Bring it inside and try not to think about it for a little bit. And like we were talking, the other main one, once you get below a quarter of a bottle, that's when the oxidation really kind of takes place and kind of kicks up a notch. So that's the time to plan to have it a little bit more, share it. Maybe if it's something you really, really cherish or is a special bottle, instead of having a full bottle, drop it down to something smaller. That is an excellent way to take all the oxygen out of the top of the bottle, is to rebottle it. Another good way to cheat that, you don't get the same kind of shine and excitement from the original bottle, but the taste and flavor stays. So that's another good way to cheat the system, if you would.
Yeah.
So, but like I was next week, like I was saying, it's so nice to have, even though it's just my phone, something that works here. We are going to be having Matt and Will and possibly Seraph on from Whiskey Crusaders. We're going to be talking about the Whiskey Castle that they have just outside of Dallas-Fort Worth. It is a place of experiences because they don't quite have a liquor license. Oh, hold on, what's going on here? For what it is, so you actually have to buy like samplings, or let's say like a course or a flight of whiskey, but you can pick all sorts of stuff or anything that's there. It's more as an educational experience or sampling place, and there is, as you could see, an absolute ton from just that picture. But Mike was there a couple weeks ago, and we'll have some pictures from when he was there, and we'll get to talk about that because it's one of the things I think if I go down to, especially in the Dallas area, I'll be planning to stop in there. It's another one of those things to add into the great Texas whiskey trail trip. But I was going to say it's something that I think that a business model some other places in different states can look at or may already be looking at adopting, because it's a neat experience. And if your place, city, or let you get around that little hub, it's the neat part about that too is you're using your space for what you want it to be used for. Sometimes if it's a bar can take on a personality of its own. What's your clientele that just comes in, not good or bad or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, your overall thought or feel for the place may change just due to survival. You know what I mean? Like, this, a lot of people are coming in, we might lean a little, cater more to that crowd. Well, this way your theme and how you feel about it and the whole tone is already set and it stays that way. which I like about it. So
Yeah.
but we're looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to. Will you be joining us next week, Morgan?
Yes, Mitch is working again next Monday, so
Too bad for him. You guys will get to meet. I don't think they're gonna make us keep up to them like they do on their show. So but prepare to have some bottles out in front of you.
okay. I can do that. So
All right. Well, remember.
I may also be a little late for work on Tuesday. Sounds like so.
Just a little. Oh, just a little bit.
Love it.
So, thank you everyone for stopping in. Remember, it is not the size of the den that matters; it is the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
What?